I've got my tea, and it's kind of cold out here. I thought it was a bit warmer, but I'm just gonna go with it. This week I read Fight Club, well, last week now because it's now Monday. I read Fight Club by Chuck Palahniuk. First book I've ever read by this author. I picked it up as a recommendation from Cover Lit. They reviewed the book on their channel recently. I bought a used copy. It was something like 59 cents plus shipping. I'm trying to save some money on my books. Not too worried about how aesthetically pleasing my copies are at this point. Getting into it, I realized quite early on that I am not the intended audience of Fight Club. If you don't know the story and you want to avoid spoilers, I would recommend not watching this video. I'm going to talk about it more of a discussion than a review. So if you haven't read it, if you don't know the story, don't watch. I knew quite a bit about Fight Club going into it. I had watched Cover Lit's review. I had watched a couple of other discussion videos from booktubers. I knew basic things such as our unnamed protagonist and Tyler Durden were indeed the same character. I knew a basic idea of what Fight Club was, but I have never seen the movie. I had never read the book up until this point. That said, I've always believed that if a novel is good, if it's a well-written piece of literature, then it doesn't matter whether I know the ending, whether I know the details. It should still be just as good. And I think that rang true with this piece. I really enjoyed it, even though, as I said, I don't believe I am the intended audience of Fight Club. I enjoyed watching Palahniuk construct the relationship between Tyler Durden and the protagonist. I enjoyed knowing that they indeed were the same person and seeing just how sophisticated he gets with his construction of that relationship. And it was actually quite humorous at times, knowing that the protagonist didn't realize he was Tyler Durden, but that everyone else around him, including Marla, saw him and Tyler Durden as the same person. So I got to witness their confusion and understand why they're upset or why they're confused at certain points in the novel. But I am not an American male looking for a way to, I don't know, rebel or escape. I am not the intended audience of this book. Fight Club doesn't speak to me in the same way that I'm sure it speaks to a lot of readers of it. I approached this novel with a bit of a detached interest, I suppose, knowing from the start, from the first few pages, that this novel was not written for a 20-something Canadian female. I've heard it said that this novel is very much a commentary on the male identity in America, and I think now that I've read it, I would have to agree with that. There's a constant tension between the more emotional, more rational, kinder protagonist and the violent, aggressive, and destructive Tyler Durden. The protagonist is someone you would think of as, I don't know, your typical American male working a job, holding down a normal life, apart from his obsession with cancer and illness support groups. Whereas Tyler Durden, he is, I think, at one point, he and the people involved in Fight Club and Project Mayhem are referred to as guerrilla terrorists of sorts. Tyler and the protagonist are two sides of a struggling identity, I guess. I won't say much more on this because I'm sure that many people have discussed this in detail, and they're probably better able to and more qualified to discuss it than I am. There are a lot of ideas crammed into this short novel. It's only about 200 pages, I think, and I had a pen with me the whole time, and every couple of pages I would underline something. I am an underliner, I'm a note taker. When I read, if there's a line that's got zing to it, I guess, if there's a line or comment that allows me to connect to another work I read or to a political or social issue, then I will underline it, I will mark it on the page. Page 52 and page 166. The idea of scars and the idea of being the middle child of history. Those are two key ideas that I guess really stuck out to me. They grabbed my interest. So the first idea is Tyler says that, well, he conveys to the protagonist that he doesn't want to die without having any scars. When I read this, my first thought was, what are you, crazy? I've had more than my fair share, I think, of oil and steam burns, and I always feel lucky when they don't leave a scar. But in a way, I guess the desire for scars kind of makes sense. They're kind of like tattoos. Sometimes people will stand or sit around and they'll compare scars, they'll tell the stories of how they got those scars. They're kind of like badges of honor, markers of having done something with your life. They're markers of being tough and really living life. You're not just sitting around, you've been in the thick of things. I think the most cringeworthy scene in this novel was when Tyler is making the soap and he gives himself the chemical burn. I just cringed at that. I know what an oil burn feels like. I know what a steam burn feels like. I know how much that hurts, and I can only imagine what a chemical burn would feel like. Now, the second part I pulled out of this on page 166, that is the idea of being the middle child of history, the middle children of history. I like that quote because it's as if Tyler is trying to sum up his generation, I think, in a way. I'm just going to read that briefly to refresh the memory of those who have read this book, and if you haven't read it but you're watching anyway, just to let you know what I'm talking about. Remember this, Tyler said. The people you're trying to step on were everyone you depend on. We're the people who do your laundry and cook your food and serve your dinner. We make your bed, we guard you while you're asleep, we drive the ambulances, we direct your calls, we are cooks and taxi drivers, and we know everything about you. We process your insurance claims and credit card charges. We control every part of your life. We are the middle children of history, raised by television to believe that someday we'll be millionaires and movie stars and rock stars. But we won't, and we're just learning this fact, Tyler said. So don't fuck with us. I find that to be an interesting perspective. In some ways, I can relate to that, but in other ways, I can't. I guess it's the pessimist in me. I've never believed that I'd be a millionaire. I never believed I'd be a rock star or a movie star. I've never been in that frame of reference where suddenly I'm disillusioned and realized that I can't do everything I want, because I've always known that I can't do everything I want. I do understand the perspective, though, where you don't want to be fucked with. You think you've been screwed over somehow by the greater forces of, I don't know, to go for a cliche term, the man. But anyway, on that pessimistic note, overall I think the novel was worth the read. I enjoyed it. I would encourage you to pick it up. On one last note, because I'm outside, I'm sitting right next to a lilac bush, my favorite lilac bush that is just starting to get buds. And I hope that's in focus.